Welcome to this video on MADM Academy, where we'll be taking a look at the fundamentals of websites. So if you're just getting started and you want to set up your very first website, then by the end of this video you're going to have a really good understanding of what you need to go ahead and do. So believe me when I say that you can actually set up your very own website in under a week with no prior experience. We've helped plenty of previous students go from having zero web design, graphic design or website experience to actually creating and setting up a really good website in literally a matter of days. So if you don't currently have a website either for yourself or on behalf of a business, but you're wanting to change that and you're really wanting your very own website, then set yourself the challenge of having your own website set up and running by Friday. It's more than achievable. You only need a few hours to be able to do this, so spread it across the week, and by this weekend there is no reason why you can't have your very own website online. If your business already has a website, then have you thought about, creating a personal brand website? This is something that we're seeing more and more people doing, and for good reason as well. If you've got your own personal brand website, you can make it for more personal interactions with people. So maybe, the people that you're networking with, the people that you're coming into contact with, you can give them a bit more of a personal experience in a lot of cases with your own personal brand website. Obviously, if you don't run your own business and you're actually looking to promote yourself, if you're wanting to bypass the traditional route of just firing off CVs in the hope that somebody's going to, see your CV and hire you, you can actually set up a personal brand website which follows the exact same processes as building a business website as well. So to begin with, we're going to look at a few of the websites that exist that allow you to set up and create a very good website in just a few simple clicks actually. So we've got WordPress, Wix and Squarespace. So these are the biggest platforms that currently exist for building your own website. It's worth mentioning, and this is a very important point, that there's actually two different variations of WordPress really. So you've got WordPress.com and WordPress.org as well. So a lot of people actually start out with WordPress.com. Yes, you can set up a nice little blog website on there, but for the majority of cases it's not going to be quite what you need. It's quite limited is WordPress.com. For quite a few reasons. It's very good if you are just wanting a very simple blog that's free. Unfortunately, it's going to have like WordPress's own, pop-up ads and things like that, so it can be not the best user experience ever. So really, if you're looking to create a more professional website, then definitely avoid WordPress.com. What we're going to need is our own hosting service, which might sound very technical and complex. It's really not. It really isn't, and it's something that we will cover this week. If you're wanting to set up a WordPress website, then make sure you look out for our WordPress setup video. So it's going to talk you through that process. Wix and Squarespace are quite similar. Historically, they were given quite a bad rep really, because a lot of people that preferred WordPress said that Wix and Squarespace were quite limited in terms of features. They weren't as good for SEO and things like that, and that's just not the case anymore. So Wix and Squarespace are both very powerful as well. The choice then comes down to you. Do you want WordPress, Wix or Squarespace? Still, the majority of resources that are out there that are going to help you create a more powerful website are certainly centered more around WordPress, so there's still an argument to be had for using WordPress. If you're going to go for a no-code route, so if you're going the no-code route or low-code, so if you're using zero coding, then definitely WordPress, Wix or Squarespace is what you're going to need. So no-code or low-code, these are actually brilliant for doing that. So if you've got no coding experience, then don't worry, WordPress, Wix and Squarespace will cover you. Go onto their sites. The pricing structures vary. How much are you going to be looking at for a good decent website? All inclusive, you're looking at around £50 a year. Maybe a little bit more. The prices are starting to creep up a little bit. At a maximum, you're looking at probably £8 to £10 a month, and that includes domain name, hosting, site certificates, and everything. to give you an idea of pricing. So really, once we've decided, which platform we're going to use, and again, if you want that broken down a little bit more, there are more videos that we've created around that subject. You can also go onto YouTube and just have a little look around. Just type in, shall I use WordPress or Wix? But for the sake of simplicity, we're going to assume that we're all going with WordPress and we can all be on the same page there. Firstly, we need a domain name. So we would need a domain name. This is, example.com, your website.co.uk. This is your domain name. This is your address. This is where people can find you online. So think of your domain name as being like your address. You're then going to need hosting. So hosting is essentially like how your website can be accessed online. So sometimes I think of it like this. Hosting is like the plot of land almost. The hosting is like where your website will sit. It's how your website can be there. It's where the house can be built. The domain name is your address. It's how people find you. And then we also obviously need the actual, the brick and mortar of your website as well. We need the website itself, which, essentially is the code. Under the hood, it's all the code, but thankfully, we don't have to be playing around with any of that code ourselves now. We can just use pre-made templates and use sort of drag and drop techniques to be able to edit them. So remember, we've got the domain name, we've got the hosting, we've got the website. Wix, Squarespace, things like that, do this all inclusive. There's a couple more steps. If you want to be able to build your own website with WordPress for hosting and your domain name, I personally recommend using a website called Namecheap. Now, if you actually go on to a site like YouTube and just Google WordPress setup, Namecheap, for instance, you're going to find tons and tons of resources there that you can just watch, and it's a few simple clicks. The reason I'm not going to break it down too much in this video is because those sort of videos exist multiple times over. What you need to be looking at is Namecheap and their WordPress hosting. Another thing to remember now is we need a site certificate which protects it allows the user and the browsers to know that our site is secure and using encrypted end-to-end data. So we'll say SSL as well. So if you've ever been on a website where you might have had an error thrown up saying that this website isn't secure, it's because their SSL certificate wasn't valid. Now, these can be included in with your hosting as well. It's an extra, but it's kind of a necessity as well now, if that makes sense. So you can actually set up a website without an SSL, but it's very, very, very good practice now to make sure you actually have a valid SSL certificate. Again, there is tons and tons of resources on YouTube, or if you're going to use Namecheap, for instance, you can just actually message the people that work there using the live chat feature, and they'll set it up for you. So again, similar to the other steps, I don't want to spend too much time on things like that, because the actual how-tos, there are tons of resources, and also anything that you are stuck on, you can always message myself or another member of the MADM Academy team, and we'll help you as well. So just really, if you want to build a website on WordPress, go on to Namecheap, get your domain, get your hosting. There's tons of stuff on YouTube, and if you're getting stuck, make sure you come and ask us as well. We've got other resources on it as well. So first of all, I would start by deciding your domain name. Do not overthink this. There was a lot of things mentioned in the past about how important your domain name was, but really you just need something to be memorable. You don't need to worry even too much about the extension now, as long as it's something kind of relevant. So by the extension, that's like the .com or the .co.uk or the .io or whatever it might be. One of the websites I'm currently running is .social. There are literally hundreds of domain name extensions now. One common myth is the myth is actually that the URL affects your SEO, and there is no truth to that anymore. Google does not take into account the actual domain name itself in terms of how well you're going to be ranked. There's far, far more to it than the simple URL. So do not overthink it. Try to avoid symbols if possible, unless you're using multiple words, in which case you might want to say your example domain.com .com. It can look a lot easier, especially when you're printing adverts offline as well. So if you're going to create a flyer, this is not a bad technique to use. Similarly, if it's yourexample.com, that's brilliant as well. Just choose and use your discretion on that as well. And again, as always with MADM Academy and things, issues like this, if you're overthinking it, do not overthink it. Just make sure you message myself or somebody else on the Academy, and we'll be able to point you in the right direction and offer you some suggestions as well. So just to clarify so far, you've got your hosting, which is, the land that your website will sit on essentially. You've got your domain name, and you've got your website. The website itself is the design of it, I guess, the content. And this is where themes come in really useful. So if you use WordPress, Wix, Squarespace, there's going to be like built-in themes, and then you're going to want to use a tool such as Elementor, Divi, for instance, on WordPress. Any of these. I actually recommend the free version of Elementor. When you're looking at free web development tools on WordPress, Elementor, in my experience, it is much better, especially the free version, than many of the others. So Elementor is good. The themes, just a quick mention on this, there are plenty of free ones. Zacra is a great WordPress theme that comes free, very customizable. Another one is Flocks, and there are also tons and tons of paid ones as well, which vary in price from around £20-30 up to around £100 usually. I pay for a theme called Newspaper. I think it's up to about Newspaper 11 now. Super customizable. And that is around £70 or £80, but that is a one-off payment. Your hosting is going to cost you a recurring fee each month, or you can save money usually by paying for it up front for the year. The SSL is often included in the hosting. If not, that might be £5 or £10 a year on top. And the domain name should be around £10 a year as well, unless you're going to go for a premium domain such as Coca-Cola.com, which even if they were willing to sell it, is probably going to set you back a few $100 million, I would guess. So anywhere between £10 and a few $100 million, but on a serious note, you should not really be spending more than about £10 on your domain name, unless you really have a good reason for having a premium domain. So hopefully with this, you've got a better understanding of what you need to do to be able to have a website online. So your next steps from this, if you're going to follow our tips, are to go on to Namecheap, set up an account on there, then you're going to register a domain on there, you're going to get your domain. That's super simple. I cannot stress how it. If you want to Namecheap now, Namecheap.com, the first thing that's going to hit you is a huge search bar to search for a domain. You cannot miss it. It's like going onto Google and not knowing where to search for into your search. So it's register your domain. After registering the domain, you want to get your WordPress hosting, which they use EasyWP. Pay for a year up front there. You can actually then get your SSL and add that to it. One thing that I will mention as well, make sure you look out for all of the the free month hosting that you get as well. So you do get a free month of hosting with Namecheap to begin with. What you might want to do is actually, this is quite a clever little tactic actually, set up the free trial for your WordPress hosting. Learn as much as you can in the first 2 or 3 weeks, practice, test, learn, get everything set up, and then delete that and then start again with your actual website. And if you're going to take it a little bit slower, then you get an extra month. And if you think, delete that first account, set up a new one, you will have to start again with your website. But if you were just using it to play around with for the first 2 or 3 weeks, it's actually going to allow you to get your experience and confidence up without paying anything, and then again go for that month free trial, and then you can start paying. So essentially you've got 2 months of free hosting. Nice little tip there. And then your SSL as well. So again, anything that you're stuck on here, make sure you message one of us. This is going to make your website official. It's going to be something. It's going to exist somehow. Then the next steps after that are to do with setting up your theme, which is what we're going to look at later this week. Setting up your theme, adding content, all that stuff. Over here, we've got like a little mood board thing, which is going to be something we look at in one of our next videos. But for now, I just want to cover the fundamentals, the basics that you need: your domain name, your WordPress hosting, your SSL. If you have decided to go with Wix, Squarespace, or any other website development platform, then we will cover them as well. But for the majority of our users, we do find that WordPress is the most popular way of doing it. So don't be going on to WordPress.com and setting it up that way. It's an entirely different process. And though you can create quite basic, fundamental sites, if you want to make it more professional, you definitely want to be going this route as well. I will say it's worth mentioning that plenty of other website hosting platforms do exist. Some of them are cheaper, such as Ionos. I'm not particularly keen on Ionos myself, but developers and designers have their own preferences, and I just like recommending the ones that I have years of experience with. Namecheap, for instance, not affiliated in any way, shape or form. It's just I like to recommend the ones that I would use. So yeah, hopefully you've got a good understanding today of what needs to be done to get your website official, so it exists. You've got your domain name, WordPress hosting exists, SSL is set up so browsers know that your site is secure. If you want to continue on today and progress through and do some more on your website today, then fantastic. Maybe you want to go off onto YouTube. But today, if you've just got the fundamentals of websites done and this is your first step into the world of websites, then really, really well done.